Hello everybody and welcome to Faded Instruments. I am Daron Sajay and I'm here to show you our new plugin called Litbit. Litbit is a bitrate reducer, sample rate reducer with a few tricks up its sleeves. It breathes a little bit more than a lot of other bitrate reducers, crusher plugins out there. It's kind of one of the problems that I've always had with bit sample rate reduction is that it has too static of a sound, that it kind of feels like it adds so much personality, which is often really rich and exciting, but it kind of feels like it's not changing much. So I added a few extra functionalities to this bit crusher and I find it really exciting. So I'm happy to share it with you all. Just to get started showing it off, I have an 808 core kit from Ableton, very, very basic sound. Let's hear it. There we go. So, let's see. At the core of this plugin is, of course, the bitrate reducer, which does exactly what you'd expect it to do. It is a knob rather than like a selector. A lot of bitrate reducers allow you to only choose certain bits like 8-bit, 7-bit, 6-bit. Here it's freeform, so it's got a much higher resolution. We do have a DC offset here. So that is the bitrate reduction. We also have a sample rate reducer, which also does what you'd expect. It goes pretty low. Let's get a hi-hat going because then you can hear it a little bit. Oh, that's all fine and dandy. We have a little DJ filter here. To the left, it's a low pass filter. To the right, it's a high pass filter. Okay. Over here, we have a saturation knob. We can kind of blow things out. Okay, we have an input volume level and an output volume level. So one thing about actually most of my plugins, if you double click, you should be able to get right back to home base. So you don't have to kind of try to find the exact center again or something. We also have a mix knob here, or mix fader. So like, we can fit it in. And last thing over here we have is if you click the Litbit, you should be able to view all the presets. In the center, we have a litigious display, which just gives you a really gorgeous visualization of your waveforms. So it really shows you what's happening to the audio as it's bit crushing it or reducing it. Another thing we have is our noise generator. So this just adds a stereo white noise that follows the envelope of your incoming audio. You can see it quite clearly here. Actually, we see it a little better with just a kick drum. Yeah, there you go. So this is all great, but again, it has this very static sound to it, very digital, which I also really love, but let's give it a little bit more spark. So the first thing that we have here are the breathe knobs, and these are essentially envelope followers. So it's following the incoming audio, the shape of the incoming audio, and you're able to apply it to either the bit rate reduction or the sample rate reduction. So let's start with the bit rate. If I turn to the left here, what it's doing, you can see we're getting some visual feedback here. At the moment, if I turn to the left, it means the louder the audio, the less the bit rate reduction is. And this is really nice because now you can really hear the pureness of the like transient, but then the kind of later crinkle of the bit crush. Here it is static. This goes both ways, so you can kind of go the opposite. The louder it is, the more it's crunching it. And exactly the same with the sample rate. We're getting this kind of like pitch glissando thing happening. It can go quite low. So it's mangling your sound quite a bit when it goes to that low end. Okay, so that is the breathe function. We also have our crinkle here. I'll start with the sample, right? This is essentially like a randomized jitter function. So if I turn this up, you'll see it starts to get a little more chaotic. You can see it in there, how it's getting a little bit more nuts. I do have a speed control over this, so I can make it go really fast, or I can slow it down. It becomes a little bit more melodic. If you're wearing headphones, if you have a stereo sound system set up, you'll hear that this is actually stereo. So it's randomizing left and right separately. It's great, especially if you have like a mono sound and you want to add more spatial depth to it. But if it's too much for you, you can click the button here and switch it into mono. It's subtle, but it has a big effect on it. Okay, we have the same exact thing for our crinkle on our bitrate reduction. Adds a lot of chaos to it. Speed that chaos up, slow it down. The breathe knobs still work when the crinkle's going, so they're just kind of adding to each other, just giving more shape to the amount of bit rate reduction and sample rate reduction that you have going. So, filter. It's looking pretty nice there. Something a little simpler, just a kick drum. It's got very simple sounds. Okay, one last thing that this does that I find is really exciting is here. Let's get a little pad going. Give it a little personality. So what we have happening here is we're getting the breathe knob is following the input of the pad, and that's affecting the bit rate reduction. You can see we have some feedback there. At the moment, it's set to follow the input, but you can actually sidechain this to any audio, any track. So if you go here in Ableton, you set the sidechain to something else, like say this kick drum. Flip the switch here, it says input, switch this to sidechain. Now you can see we're starting to get the pads bitrate reduction is following the envelope of the drums. Same with the sample rate reduction. You can see immediately you're getting these kind of like breathing relationship. They're kind of feeding back into each other. Even though it's very digital, it has this very organic sound to it. It feels like an organism in a way. Anyways, I think that's probably enough for now. That's the basics of this plugin. You can really mangle things. And I find it just very expressive for sound design. And anyways, that is Litbit. I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to comment or let me know what your thoughts are. This plugin will be out immediately.